from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com.
And a good morning. Thank you for tuning into the Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service. My name is Dory, and I'm here with Melissa, and we invite you to listen to our broadcasts both live and on demand. Our live sessions are available on the Blind Community Thrift Store YouTube channel, Monday through Friday between 10 a.m. and noon each week. Additionally, you can access on-demand content through the Audio Reader Network, which offers a wide range of audio materials for the visually impaired community. To explore content from the Audio Reader Network, visit www.reader.com News-Leader.ku.edu. The site provides details about accessing content via Amazon Alexa, Audio Reader Network mobile app, and information on receiving a radio to listen to the broadcast by KSMU Radio. All broadcasts are played over KSMU's subcarrier airwaves at 67 kilohertz on 91.1 from 3 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Contact Audio Reader Network for information on receiving a pre-programmed radio. And we'll begin with a story from the Springfield News-Leader. Public invited to welcome Honor Flight veterans home in Springfield. And Honor Flight of the Ozarks is inviting the public to welcome home area veterans returning from a July 7th mission to Washington, D.C. The nonprofit will be sending 81 veterans and 8 guardians on the trip, according to a community announcement. The day-long mission will give veterans from Southwest Missouri and Northwest Arkansas the chance to visit national memorials dedicated to military service and sacrifice. Community members are encouraged to gather at the Springfield Branson National Airport in the evening to greet the returning veterans with flags, applause, and expressions of appreciation, according to the announcement. Quote, "The welcome home is one of the most emotional and meaningful parts of the entire mission," said David Snyder, Executive Director of Honor Flight of the Ozarks. "For many of our veterans, it's a moment they never experienced when they first came home from service. As we celebrate 250 years of freedom in this country, we have an opportunity to come together as a community and show our veterans just how much their service and sacrifice means to us." The next byline reads, "Mission includes visits to national memorials," and we see a picture of a group of people that are out at the Springfield Branson National Airport as they greeted veterans from a previous honor flight, waving flags, signs, and also pictures of veterans as well. Participants will be traveling to several sites, including World War II Memorial, Korean War Veterans Memorial, and Vietnam Veterans Memorial, as well as the U.S. Marine Corps Memorial and Arlington National Cemetery. At Arlington, the group is scheduled to observe the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, according to the announcement. The group will depart from Springfield Branson National Airport at 4:30 a.m., return at around 8 p.m. when the public homecoming celebration will take place. Next byline, organization highlights long-standing service. Honor Flight of the Ozarks has offered one more mission troops to Washington, D.C. since launching in 2014. A total of 2,364 veterans have participated in the program, which serves Southwest Missouri and Northwest Arkansas, according to the announcement. There's no cost for eligible veterans to participate. Additional information is available by calling 417-268-9052 or visit honorflightoftheozarks.org.
This is the Springfield Daily Citizen. Low water crossing where Springfield man drowned requires rescues every single year. Since 2018, emergency crews have responded to 6 vehicles that were swept off a low water crossing in Fair Grove, said the fire chief. A Springfield man died at the crossing in June. They show a picture here of the stream, the river, a low water crossing, the Little Pomme de Terre River on State Highway CC in Fair Grove. A low water crossing in Fair Grove claimed the life of one Springfield man and required 2 separate water rescues in 1 week of June, according to Fair Grove Fire Protection District Chief Randall Hoskins. Emergency crews responded to a call of a vehicle swept off the low water crossing in the 4900 block of State Highway CC around 4 a.m. on June 14th. Hoskins said fast-moving water carried a small commercial truck with 2 occupants about 70 to 100 feet from the roadway. One occupant of the truck was able to escape and dial 911 for nearby residents, Hoskins said. The other occupant drowned. Family members of DeAndre Bush, 22, confirmed that he was the individual who died. Bush was a musician, father, and graduate of Parkview High School. 1 week later, on the evening of June 21st, a woman and her child was swept off the same low water crossing and carried about half a mile down the river. Hoskins said a family member was able to go down to the river and pull them out, but it was a miracle, he added. In light of the recent incidents, Hoskins said that the years-long effort to bring attention to several dangerous low-water crossings in North Greene County is now finally starting to catch some steam. The fire chief is meeting with state legislators soon to discuss the issue, he said. His biggest goals in life were to become famous and take care of his family. Brandy Holland, Bush's mother, described her son as a family man who frequently organized family get-togethers at his aunt's house in Springfield. He had recently moved back to Springfield and was working odd jobs with the goal of moving to Chicago to be near his 5-year-old son, Zaire. His biggest goals in life was to become famous and take care of his family. That's all he ever wanted, Holland said. Bush created music under the name Boss Gang Trey and wrote some songs like Letter to Zaire about family members. According to Holland, Bush had a friend from high school who collected and hauled truckloads of grease for money. He decided to accompany the friend on a trip at the last minute and ended up driving the truck on June 14th, Holland said. She stated that her son was not familiar with driving a commercial truck and had never collected grease before. The family's accepting donations to cover the cost of Bush's funeral through Gorman Sharp's Funeral Home. A spokesperson for the Missouri State Highway Patrol said a report on the drowning will be available in the coming weeks. Study will evaluate safety needs along the route. Drowning and water rescue sites. Emergency crews are rescuing about one vehicle a year at a low crossing near Farm Road 199 on State Highway CC. They show a map here. Hoskins said Ebenezer Fire Protection District Chief Nelson Pruitt has been working with him for years to bring attention to several low water crossings on Highway CC that become treacherous during flash flooding conditions. The entire stretch of CC Highway between 13 and 65 is a problem. Hoskins said he added that roads in the Fairgrove area are bearing heavier traffic, which has increased the frequency of water rescues. It's becoming more and more frequent. Where it used to be kind of 1 year, and we might not have one for a whole year, now we're starting to see it every single year, and now we've had 2 in a week, basically, he said. The crossing in the 4900 block of State Highway CC is particularly dangerous because of poor sight distance. Hoskins described it as a blind S-curve that drivers may not be able to see ahead of time while approaching at a speed limit. They show the road there. A bend in the road makes it difficult to see low water crossing while approaching. There have been 6 water rescues at the crossing since 2018, according to Hoskins. As of June 26, over 1,200 people have signed an online petition urging local and state officials to replace the low water crossings with the elevated bridge. The crossing is on a state route and is maintained by the Missouri Department of Transportation, MoDOT. Jennifer Williams, communication manager for MoDOT Southwest District, stated that there is currently no funding designated for a project at that site. Funding for such projects is limited, and there is currently no funding source designated for a project at this location, Williams stated in an email to the Daily Citizen. MoDOT has ordered new caution and warning signs to increase visibility at the curved low water crossing. Williams added that Greene County is working with the Southwest Missouri Council of Government to begin a study of the route. Greene County has prioritized the low water crossing on Route CC for several years, but when evaluated with all other needs in the 21 counties within the district, it has not elevated to become a higher priority, Williams stated. Due to continuing concerns, Greene County recently pursued and received a grant to study safety needs on Route 6C. They are currently working with SMCOG to get this study underway. Zoe McIntyre covers Springfield surrounding communities like Nixa, Ozarks, and Republic. McIntyre is an Evangel University alumni and lifelong resident of Springfield area. Contact her at zmcintyre@sgfcitizen.org.
And from the Springfield News-Leader, Supreme Court has rejected Trump's birthright citizenship order in major blow. And the justices said President Donald Trump cannot change the definition of birthright citizenship with the stroke of a pen. The Supreme Court on June 30th rejected President Donald Trump's attempt to redefine who is an American, striking down the limits on birthright citizenship that were a centerpiece of his hardline approach to immigration. The 6-3 ruling landed as the nation gears up to celebrate its 250th anniversary, adding to the significance of a case that was already a blockbuster. And it came months after the court killed Trump's signature tariffs, another repudiation of the expansive authority Trump has claimed since returning to the White House last year. But in other immigration cases, including including last week's ruling allowing Trump to end deportation protections for hundreds of thousands of immigrants, the justices backed the president's authority. In their latest decision, however, the justices said Trump cannot change the definition of birthright citizenship with the stroke of a pen. Trump's push to make that change upended how the constitutional guarantee, long considered a bedrock American principle, had historically been understood. Writing for the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts said children born to parents who are unlawfully or temporarily in the United States satisfy the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment. Citizenship then and now was the right to have rights, to freely participate in our political community, Roberts wrote. The framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land. We keep that promise today. Three of the court's other conservatives, Justices Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Neil Garouche, dissented. Thomas said the decision devalues American citizenship and is unlikely to stand the test of time. Justice Kavanaugh, another conservative and a Trump appointee, said he would have ruled against the order on a narrower ground. Kavanaugh said the order does run afoul of a 1952 immigration law, but does not violate the 14th Amendment. Quote, as revealed by the court's opinion with its detailed account of history and precedent, and by the weighty and thoughtful dissents, the constitutional issue is far more complicated than the statutory issue, Kavanaugh wrote. After reading those scholarly opinions, one thing seems evident. The constitutional issue is not straightforward, much as we might want it to be. And the next picture is of protesters outside the Supreme Court, one holding up a sign saying, hands off birthright citizenship, and several protesters holding signs that say, Trump must go now. Trump's Inauguration Day birthright citizenship order was blocked immediately, is the next byline. On his first day back in office, Trump directed federal agencies not to recognize the citizenship of babies born in the United States who do not have at least one parent who is an American citizen or lawful permanent resident, also known as a green card holder. Trump's order was immediately challenged through multiple lawsuits filed by expectant parents, immigrant rights groups, and 22 state attorneys general. The Supreme Court took up Trump's birthright citizenship executive order last year, but only to decide whether lower courts had gone too far in blocking its implementation while the order was being litigated. In that 6-3 decision, the court rejected the way judges have put Trump's order on ice, but left open another path. And a federal judge in New Hampshire soon blocked the citizenship order again, ruling it likely violated the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment and a federal law that codified those rights. And we see a picture of President Donald Trump speaking during a press conference. Trump campaigned on limiting birthright citizenship is the next byline. Trump, who did campaign on restricting birthright citizenship and attended the April oral arguments in a first for a sitting president, argued that the citizenship clause has been misinterpreted. He said it should not apply to children born to parents who aren't citizens or permanent residents because they may feel loyal to a foreign country, even if they have to follow U.S. laws while they're here. No country could be successful with such an anchor wrapped firmly around its neck, Trump wrote on social media in April. The president also argued a landmark 1898 Supreme Court decision about the 14th Amendment applied to children whose parents had a, quote, permanent domicile and residence in the United States, an interpretation that protects the meaning and value of American citizenship. Foundational to who we are as a nation is the next byline. The American Civil Liberties Union, which represented the immigrants who challenged the executive order, called birthright citizenship, quote, foundational to who we are as a nation. Ask any American what our citizenship rule is, and they'll tell you everyone born here is a citizen alike. Cecilia Wang, the ACLU's national legal director, told the justices in her oral argument, the 14th Amendment's fixed bright line rule has contributed to the growth and thriving of our nation. Wang herself is a citizen under that constitutional guarantee because her Taiwanese parents were in the United States on student visas when she was born. Under Trump's policy, roughly 255,000 children born on U.S. soil each year would start life without U.S. citizenship, according to the Migration Policy Institute. That's about 6% of all projected births. Expectant mothers challenged Trump orders is the next byline. The parents representing their children in the lawsuit, Trump versus Barbara, included a woman from Honduras who's lived in the United States since 2024 and gave birth months after Trump signed his executive order. Identified by the pseudonym Barbara, the woman said in court filings that she's seeking asylum from gang activity in Honduras, and her family has become part of the local community in New Hampshire. Another mother who challenged the order came to the United States from Taiwan in 2013 on a student visa and is applying for a work visa. She and her husband have 4 children, 3 born in the United States before Trump's executive order and 1 born after. Quote, "My husband and I ended up building a life here," the woman, known as Susan, said in a court filing. "My baby has the right to citizenship and a future in the United States." What the Citizenship Clause says is the next byline. The 14th Amendment, one of a trio of constitutional amendments adopted after the Civil War, overrode the Supreme Court's infamous 1857 Dred Scott decision that enslaved and free black people could not be citizens. But the Citizenship Clause isn't limited to the status of black people. The amendment states, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside." Roberts wrote that the amendment returned the nation to the understanding of citizenship adopted at the founding, known as, quote, "right of the soil," where children born on U.S. soil were generally U.S. citizens. It, quote, "was soil, not blood, that would determine citizenship going forward," Roberts wrote. During the oral arguments, conservative justices addressed, but dismissed, policy arguments Trump made for limiting birthright citizenship. Those included the president's claim that, quote, "birth tourism," the practice of pregnant women coming to the United States to give birth so their babies will be citizens, is a major threat to national security and an incentive for illegal immigration. When Solicitor General John Sauer told the justices that the, quote, "new world" to which the Citizenship Clause applies, Roberts responded that such concerns, quote, "have no impact on the legal analysis before us." "It's a new world," Roberts said. "It's the same Constitution."
This is from the Springfield Daily Citizen. Christian County leaders say they need a new jail today. Finding $60 million is the challenge. For the second time in 30 years, Christian County officials said they're in dire need of a new jail with no immediate way to fund it. Show a picture here of the jail, a couple of inmates, an employee. Last year, the Christian County Sheriff's Office jailed an average of 155 people per day. The county jail has a total of 99 beds. Christian County officials are in agreement that a new, bigger jail is a top priority for the county, but with budgets becoming tighter each year, the county is uncertain when it will have the funds to construct the facility it needs. Sheriff Brad Cole estimates a new jail will come with a $60 to $75 million price tag. Obviously, crowding creates a different work environment for the staff because you have people sleeping in houses in places that were never intended to be housed or slept in, Cole said. It does create some officer safety issues at times, but we train for that and we make sure people understand and how to handle those situations. Here's a picture here of Sheriff Brad Cole. Talks about conditions of the Christian County Jail in Ozarks, Missouri, and the need for the facility to be replaced during an interview in his office on Tuesday, January 20th of 2026. In addition to overcrowding, the facility has faced major plumbing issues over the years. In July of 2025, the county completed a project for around $1 million to solve sewer problems that repeatedly sent wastewater and feces into the sheriff's office and inmate showers. Honestly, we're one lawsuit away from saying, "Why have we not already built this jail?" Cole said. "We do everything we can to mitigate the liability. We make sure our inmates are taken care of and that they have everything that's required and needed. But the fact of the matter is, we have outgrown this jail. The jail structurally is not what it should be, and we face daily issues." Space is at a premium. To quell crowding, Christian County sends some inmates to jails in the neighboring Douglas and Stone counties. On an average day, between 15 and 25 Christian County inmates could be jailed in other counties, said Captain Colton Craig. One of the biggest challenges with the jail's limited space is treating people with mental health conditions who are booked into jails on temporary holds. The general population in the jail is divided into 6 parts, group of cells. Inmates who need to be monitored closely are kept in separate wings of the jail, which contains 8 cells. Inmates may stay in these cells, if they're acting out or becoming aggressive towards others, or if they need to be closely monitored due to a mental health crisis. There is one designated watch cell for people at risk of self-harm or suicide. There's a picture here of one of the cells, 15-minute hold cell, and one with the door open. If multiple people are in crisis, personnel would normally move some inmates to convert into other cells into watch cells, Cole said. The cells are frequently utilized because they also house people with complicated medical needs. Normally, this would be temporary housing until they're able to move up to our general population, but this has turned into a kind of medical wing, Craig said. When reporters visited the jail in late 2026, the watch was occupied by someone experiencing a mental health crisis. Another cell was being used by a person on an oxygen machine. There's another door here, D161D, lockdown. This isn't anything new. Limited space means limited privacy in many situations. Springfield criminal defense attorney Stuart Huffman said he's met with the clients in Christian County's drunk tank on multiple occasions because it was the most secluded space available. The other thing with Christian County is terrible planning. He said, you have a jail that's not connected to the circuit court. People in the jail often attend court appointments virtually, even though the circuit court is directly across the street. Although Huffman's acknowledged that the jail's design and planning creates issues, he said Christian County's problems are not unique among county jails in southwest Missouri. Every jail is overcrowded. This isn't anything new, Huffman said. It's common for the county jails to keep 3 or 4 inmates in a room with a 2-person bunk, he added. New jail will likely come later than sooner. There's a picture here of Sheriff Brad Cole to the left and Captain Colton Craig, jail administrator. Look at information about one inmate in a control room at the Christian County Jail in Ozarks, Missouri on Tuesday, January 20th of 2026. Christian County President Commissioner Lynn Morris believes the county jail will find a suitable piece of property and come up with the money to build a new jail in the next 5 years or so. There's currently no plan to do this, as Christian County is already facing difficult budget decisions to avoid dipping into its reserves. Inflation and population growth in the county have been outpacing sales tax revenue since 2022. We need a new jail today. We need a new jail probably 2 or 3 years ago, but we don't have any money to do it, Morris said. There's another picture of, this is their little area of a basketball court. The county commissioner continues to say that a new jail is biggest priority, according to Cole. I couldn't agree more. I've been telling them this for the last 10 years, he said. This is not the first time Christian County has been in dire need of a new jail with no way to fund it. Until 2001, inmates were housed in the 3rd floor of the historic courthouse in downtown Ozarks. Christian County officials began attempting to fund a new jail in 1995, but it took a lawsuit from the ACLU and an inmate suicide before voters approved a 1/4-cent tax to fund the current facility. Current jail was built under pressure. The old courthouse lockup had a space for 18 inmates, although it was frequently over capacity, according to a 1999 story from the Springfield News-Leader. It lacked air conditioning and had no emergency call buttons or fire escape. In October 1999, the Ozark chapter of the ALCU filed a class action lawsuit against Christian County, alleging that the conditions of the jail violated inmates' civil rights. At the time, the executive director of the ACLU stated that the condition of the jail was a tragedy waiting to happen, not only for inmates but for staff. Christian County's officials were in agreement that the jail needed an upgrade. There had been 4 attempts since 1995 to pass a 1/4-cent sales tax to fund a new jail, but voters rejected the measures each time. 1 month after the ALCU filed the lawsuit, a 24-year-old inmate died by suicide in his cell. The county was forced to evacuate the other inmate and move them to Stone and Ozark counties. While the jail was empty, the county got to work adding a fire escape and meeting other conditions negotiated by the ALCU to settle the lawsuit, but the space still had serious security issues. Christian County voters finally approved a 1/4-cent sales tax in April of 2000. The jail closed after another inmate suicide in August 2000. In March 2001, an inmate reportedly managed to break out of the jail and run away after removing a grate in one of the showers, climbing to the roof and lowering himself to the ground with knotted sheets. The current jail was completed in 2001 for $7.7 million, according to a November 2001 story from a News-Leader. The Springfield Business Journal reported that contractor R.E. Smith Construction and architect Bates and Associates Incorporated completed the 85,000 square foot facility. We've been at capacity at about as long as I can remember. There's a picture here with Christian County Sheriff Brad Cole and room connecting different cells, groups in the Christian County Jail in Ozark. When the current jail facility was completed, Christian County was average 41 inmates a day. Cole joined the county in 2004. We've been at capacity for honestly about as long as I can remember, Cole said. The sheriff stated that when the facility was initially designed, it was intended to accommodate additional upper level so that could be expanded in the future. Unfortunately, they didn't follow the design plans and the blueprints the way it was supposed to be, which creates a huge issue as far as adding the third level, he said. Structurally, the building not capable of handling that third level, and the feasibility cost wise to add that third level is just astronomical. There's coal in the room where sewage previously backed up as Christian County Jail, Ozarks. The jail had recurring issues with both sewer and drainage systems in the kitchen, a problem Cole said was caused because the builders installed 3-inch drain lines instead of 6-inch lines specific in the blueprint. Sewage and feces backed up into the sheriff's office and inmate showers on multiple occasions, remedying the damage cost to the counties thousands of dollars on each occasion. Christian County wrote a grant for sewage improvements in the jail, Cole said, enabling the county to finish on a $1 million project to fix the problem in July of 2025. New facility will cost over $60 million. Based on an information feasible study Cole conducted around 2023, he said that a new jail facility for Christian County will cost between $60 to $75 million, with construction costs increasing about 5% every year. He said a new jail will need 350 to 400 beds to accommodate the next 25 years of growth in the county. In 2022, Greene County completed a new jail with a capacity of 1,242 inmates for $150 million. By statute, county jails in Missouri are supposed to be located within the county seat. Cole said that the future jail site would ideally be located off a major highway like Route 14, Route CC, or Highway 65, and would connect the city and water sewage services. The footprint would be around 15 to 20 acres, and it would look different from the current facility. Studies and experience have shown that you don't build jails like what we have now. You don't build them up, you build them out, Cole said. The cost to build them up is higher than building them out. Christian County might keep 2 jails and use to make money. The Christian County Jail currently houses some federal inmates, although the percentage of federal inmates varies day by day. Craig estimated that make up to 25% of the jail's population on average. I think one of the goals is to try and have more federal inmates because we lose money on state prisons, Morris said. The sheriff envisions a future with 2 active jails in Christian County. My thoughts and plans, you're still going to have the jail here because you're still going to have court here, Cole said. So we're still going to have to house inmates here for court purposes. We're already here. We might as well utilize it to make some money and house some federal inmates. If the county jailed 100 federal inmates, Cole estimated that it would be reimbursed around $7,500 a day. ACLU files lawsuit. This is the sources. So there's a picture here. Before the body cam, there was a buff lamb. Christian County with heavy hand and left hand behind a legacy still debated today. This story was by Zoe McIntyre, Springfield surrounding counties like Nixa, Ozark Republic. McIntyre is an Evangel University alumni, long life resident of Springfield area. Contact her at zmmcIntyre@sfgcitizen.org.
And Kehoe signs budget slashes millions in state spending. Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe signed the state's fiscal year 2027 budget Tuesday, including millions of dollars in cuts through dozens of line item vetoes, as well as pausing hundreds of millions of dollars of additional state spending. Kehoe issued a total of 65 vetoes over the budget. The total amount axed from the budget through vetoes added up to more than $30 million, the governor's office said. Where are the cuts? The Republican also issued dozens of spending restrictions that total $441 million. The restrictions, which act as spending freezes, span multiple projects and departments. After several years of historic growth in spending, this budget funds smart and necessary investments while also taking an important step toward right-sizing government to ensure Missouri remains positioned for long-term success, Kehoe said in a statement. The total amount in the budget Kehoe signed totaled $50.7 billion. Kehoe also hinted at tough sledding ahead for the state's budget. State government doesn't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. And continuing to spend faster than we grow our economy is not a sustainable path forward, Kehoe said in the statement issued by his office Tuesday. Our work doesn't end with balancing this year's budget. By maintaining fiscal discipline and continuing to grow Missouri's economy, we're building the foundation for an even strong and resilient Missouri. And one other piece of business news here, Great Southern is closing 9 branches and conducting layoffs. This is a story by Jeff Pickle from the Springfield Business Authority, Springfield Business Journal, rather. Great Southern Bank, which is operated by Great Southern Bancorp Incorporated, is closing several branches and conducting layoffs. A statement provided by the company points to 9 branch closures and 66 job eliminations across multiple company divisions. Quote, like all financial intuitions, Great Southern Bank regularly evaluates our operations as part of routine business maintenance, the statement reads. On occasion, these evaluations require a calibration of our products, services, and workforce to match changing market dynamics. 3 of the branch closures are local, and they all have October 1st closure dates. They're the following. The location at 331 South Avenue in downtown Springfield, in Ozark at 1444 West State Highway J, and in Nixa, 1391 North Main Street. 4 states have impacted branches: Missouri, Arkansas, Iowa, and Kansas. Great Southern is committed to supporting affected associates by offering comprehensive severance packages, transition services, and opportunities to apply for open roles within the organization, the statement reads. Great Southern officials said in the statement that the company's latest footprint review resulted in growth of its live teller ATM network and the addition of green light debit cards. During 2025, Green Southern's net income was roughly $71 million, an increase from $61.8 million in 2024, according to past reporting. GSBC shared closed at 78.41, compared with a 52-week range of 53.76 to $79.76.
This is Springfield Daily Citizen. Answer Man. Is Springfield Bass Pro the flagship, the company's largest store? Show a picture here of Bass Pro as it was during the winter time because there's a light up little finger of Santa. Well, it's definitely a 2-horse race between Memphis and Springfield. Bass Pro has 129 stores in the United States and 16 in Canada, according to Visit Springfield. It's Springfield with almost 500,000 square feet. I think there is a bit of hometown bias in the declaration. If you Google the question, the answer is Memphis. It looks like to me that Memphis is the correct answer. Astute readers will notice I use the phrase looks like. There's a picture of the Bass Pro at the Pyramid in Memphis, occupies the first 2 floors of the 32-story structure. That's because your question, Jack, gets complicated when you consider the fact that Bass Pro Shops occasionally come with interior or attached amenities such as a hotel, or in the case of Springfield, the Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium. These extra amenities often are added to the overall square footage of the store without a separate number for the actual retail square footage of the store. And although it's possible for me to use the Greene County Assessor's website to pull out the retail commercial space for Bass Pro here, I was unable to use the Shelby County's Assessor's website to determine the space for the 103-room hotel within the Pyramid and above the Bass Pro Shops in Memphis. When I called the Shelby County's Assessor's office, I could never get beyond the recording message that all representatives were serving other customers. I stayed online for 20 minutes and gave up. Of course, I figured Bass Pro would know which one of its stores is the largest. I tried the only way I knew of reaching Bass Pro. I sent an email to the press@basspro.com and did not receive a response. Bass Pro Shops at the Pyramid, Memphis, 535,000 square feet. I don't know how much of that space, if any, is actually hotel space for the 103-room Big Cypress Lodge. The 32-story building opened in 1991. The first concert there was in November of that year. The Judds played, and there was a sewage backup caused by flooding. Over the years, the likes of Bob Seger, the Rolling Stones, Bruce Springsteen, and Elton John performed in the Pyramid. On June 8th of 2002, Lennox Lewis knocked out heavyweight champ Mike Tyson in the 8th round in the Pyramid. The NBA's Grizzlies moved from Vancouver, British Columbia to Memphis for the 2001-2002 season and played in the Pyramid 3 seasons. They left for a new stadium on Beale Street in 2004. The structure was mostly vacant for 11 years, and during its hibernation was called the Tomb of Doom. It reopened as a Bass Pro Shop in April of 2015. A March 26, 2015 story in the Memphis Commercial Appeal states that the store will have 535 square feet for retail floor space. A year later, the paper stated something different. The company has declined to clarify exactly how many square feet of the 535,000 square foot building are considered retail space, but numbers for 222,000 to 300,000 square feet have been cited. The Memphis Bass Pro Store has 2 stories and included a 13-lane fishbowl bowling alley and an archery range and a pistol range. Bass Pro Shops in Springfield, Missouri, 3,001 564 square feet from the Greene County Assessor. This does not include the 38,739 square feet for the museum and aquarium. Bass Pro was founded in Springfield by Johnny Morris in 1972. The company moved to its current location on South Campbell Avenue in 1980, according to the Springfield Leader and Press. It had purchased the Handy Dan Shopping Center. The firm has bought the building housing Handy Dan Do-It-Yourself Home Center, Carpet Factory, and Toyo, and will occupy the entire 70,000 square feet, the newspaper reported. For you Springfield historians, the Gibson Discount Center became the Howard Discount Center and then the Handy Dan Shopping Center. The building you see today opened in 1985. A July 1995 story in the Springfield News-Leader states that an electrical fire damaged 25,000 square feet of the 150,000 square foot store. 3 other big Bass Pro Shops. Bass Pro Shops in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 225,000 square feet. The store opened in the shopping mall in November 2004. When it opened, it had a stocked trout stream just outside the mall's entrance, a 40-foot rock climbing wall, a 60,000-gallon aquarium, and a waterfall inside the store. Bass Pro Shop in Grapevine, Texas, is 197,000 square feet. The store opened in March 1999, according to a story in Fort Worth Star-Telegram, in which the reporter also interviewed Morris and visited Springfield. The Grapevine store is connected to an Embassy Suites hotel that was built by the Springfield developer John Q. Hammonds. Bass Pro Shops in Rancho Cucamonga, California, it's 184,480 square feet. The store opened in July 2007. 4D Development of Los Angeles bought the Bass Pro building in Rancho Cucamonga in March for $36.26 million. Bass Pro continues to operate at that location. This is the Answer Man column, number 180, Steve Pokin. Steve Pokin writes for the Pokin Around and the Answer Man columns for the Springfield Daily Citizen. He also writes about criminal justice issues. He can be reached at Spoken Around, SpringfieldCitizen.org. His office line is 417-837-3661.
And from the Springfield News-Leader, businesses sue Missouri AG over slot machine threats. And a couple of key points to this story. Missouri Attorney General Catherine Hanaway is facing 2 lawsuits for allegedly threatening businesses with criminal prosecution over slot machine games. The lawsuits argue Hanaway is unlawfully pressuring bars and gas stations to shut down the machines without due process. One lawsuit contends that so-called, quote, pre-reveal games should be considered legal until a court or the legislature decides otherwise. 2 lawsuits filed in Cole County accuse Missouri Attorney General Catherine Hanaway of unlawfully using threats of criminal prosecution to force bars and gas stations to shut down slot machine games. The latest case, filed on Friday, June 26, by an entity founded last year called the Missouri Licensing Advocacy Group, based in Osage Beach, argues Hanaway and the Division of Alcohol and Tobacco Control are threatening the liquor and other licenses of businesses that host the machines. While state law requires anyone receiving a liquor license to be of, quote, good moral character, that phrase is undefined in the statute and can't be invoked just because there is a game on the premises that the state believes is illegal. And what follows is a picture of 2 of those no-chance gambling machines awaiting customers. This was taken into Columbia convenience store. According to the lawsuit, the organization has members who include liquor suppliers, convenience stores, bars, and other licensees. The case was filed by the organization and not by any individual member. The problem with the enforcement effort is that it treats all games as though they are illegal, said Samuel Trapp, co-founder of the organization. Quote, they come in and claim you're breaking the law and suddenly you're tried, found guilty, convicted, and there's no due process, Trapp said. In a case filed June 18th, the St. Charles County restaurant called Tuner's Bar and Grill asked for class action status to sue Hanaway to block her from threatening prosecution if retailers do not turn off games at their locations. In that lawsuit, attorneys for Turner's argue that Hanaway, without winning any criminal convictions, has decided that games that allow players to see the outcome of the next play, called, quote, pre-reveal games, must be shut down. The owners cannot wait to be charged and then argue the games were legal, the lawsuit states. For a Missouri retailer, the prosecution is not a clean path to legal clarity, the lawsuit states. It means public accusation, possible arrest, search warrants, seizure of machines and cash, forfeiture proceedings, loss of banking relationships, landlord pressure, insurance problems, damage to licenses, termination of retail contracts, and reputational injury that no later judgment can fully repair. Hanaway's aggressive stance against the games is a marked change from her predecessors, Andrew Bailey and Eric Schmidt, who both largely ignored the growing process of the games. Bailey recused his office from a 2021 lawsuit filed by the biggest game vendor, Torch Electronics, after taking large political donations from political action committees controlled by the company's lobbyist, Steve Tilley. In February, a federal judge ruled in a civil lawsuit that pre-reveal games offered by Torch meet the statutory definition of a gambling device and are therefore illegal. Since that decision, Hanaway has threatened Torch, based in Wildwood, with prosecution. The company turned its games off in early April to avoid criminal charges. The state has been working closely with federal investigators on cases involving slot machines at retail locations. A Georgia resident pleaded guilty to money laundering and illegal gambling in May in federal court in Springfield. And as the legal pressure has ramped up, so has the political fight over the machines. Missouri lawmakers debated but did not pass a bill to allow slot machine games licensed by the Missouri Lottery. Companies on both sides of the debate have poured millions into this year's legislative elections to influence the outcome in 2027. But until the legislature writes a new definition of a gambling device, pre-reveal games should be presumed to be legal, the lawsuit by Turner's Bars and Grill state. Turner's offers pre-reveal games, the lawsuit states, but they are not Torch machines. Damages and demands from Hanaway that all pre-reveal games be turned off go beyond her authority, the lawsuit contends. It treats resemblance as guilt, the lawsuit states. It treats a machine that looks like something the state disfavors as a crime. And it treats a non-binding federal district court ruling involving Torch Electronics, different devices, different evidence, different parties, and a private competitor dispute as if it amended the Missouri revised statutes. It did not. Both lawsuits are in their early stages, and no response has been filed. James Lawson, Deputy Chief of Staff to Hanaway, said the office would not comment on the specifics of the lawsuits. We're happy to litigate this issue in court, Lawson said. We've been filing cases on this for months. The Turner's lawsuit asked the court to declare that the statute being used by Hanaway to prosecute pre-reveal games is unconstitutionally vague and to block her from further charges. Trapp's group wants a broader ruling on the way that licensing agencies can be used and to define the standards for deciding whether a violation has occurred that warrants revoking or denying a license. Hanaway wants to shut the games down because they're illegal and create other problems, Lawson said. They create magnets for organized violent crime, money laundering, and illegal activity and put them out in the middle of storefronts, he said. Quote, it is a billion-dollar, unregulated cash industry.
This is the Springfield News-Leader. Want to learn more about Route 66 in Springfield? Try the Clio app. Key points: a nonprofit app called Clio now features a virtual driving tour of Route 66 in the Ozarks. The tour allows users to explore historical landmarks on the route between Joplin and Springfield, Missouri. The virtual tour will eventually include the entirety of Route 66 in Missouri. As the iconic Route 66 celebrates its 100th birth this year, Ozark residents interested in learning more about the history of the Mother Road can now do so with the click of a button. Clio, a nonprofit app, allows users to explore more than 2,000 walking and driving tours and 43,000 landmarks nationwide, with one of the most recent additions being Springfield's section of the beloved highway. Users can see where they are and what took place in certain areas dating back centuries. Every place has about 2 or 3 stories that they start with when they're telling visitors, and for Springfield's, it's Route 66, said David Trowbridge, William T. Kemper, Associate Research Professor of Digital and Public Humanities at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and President of the Clio Foundation. Joplin has strong Route 66 connections, too. It's the idea of Route 66 in the market deeply connected to Springfield and Southwest Missouri. There's a picture here as the nation prepares to celebrate Route 66 Centennial. See what the Mother Road looked like in the 1950s and around Springfield, Missouri. You can tell it was a while ago. It's nothing but looks like mountains. From New York City to Chicago to Los Angeles, the Clio app is spilling rich secrets from all over America's soil. It started in 2012 as Trowbridge was teaching United States history class at Marshall University in 2012, and a group of students in his class created a historical website for a project. Some students in the class said he should turn it into a mobile app. Yuck, I hate mobile apps, Trowbridge thought. It was at a time when touchscreen devices were in the early stages, but the more he thought about it, the better the idea sounded. He created Clio app in 2013, starting with $10,000 of his own funds. Because of the grant from Missouri's Humanities, Trowbridge was able to add an Route 66 virtual driving tour that starts at Joplin's History and Mineral Museum and ends at the Railhaven Motel in Springfield, the 29th and final stop. Featured towns between the two cities include Webb City, Avila, Carthage, and Phelps, among others. Local historians dug deep into the historical landmarks alongside the iconic highway. From the old drive-in movie theaters to service stations to museums, users can click on the markers as they travel and see the timeline of each location spanning back a few centuries. Sometime in the near future, the Route 66 virtual tour will expand across the entire state. With Clio, we can take the market and say, okay, here's the rest of the story, Trowbridge said. Yes, this is about a Civil War battle that happened here in 1864. Let me start over and tell you the rest of the story. And the app can tell you why the battle matters because of things that aren't just troop movements or whatever you can fit in on the marker. So that's the idea. The app is now about the same as Trowbridge's children. The age as Trowbridge's children. During a family trip to Disney World, Trowbridge recalled he made a knockoff version of the Clio app and planted the places he knew the kids wanted to go. They guided their parents around the whole park. In that moment, it made casual walking more enjoyable for Trowbridge's children, starting with Disney World's limits and translating outsides of it. Now, they use the original app and do thousands of people around the country, including grade schools and colleges, because it makes history lessons feel less forced and more enjoyable, he said. I think there's a hunger for this authentic world of travel and adventure, of just hop in your car and go, Trowbridge said. You can explore Route 66 and discover the stories as you go. Those interested in using Clio app can either download it from their mobile device app store or go to www.theclio.com. Chris Meglio is an intern with the Springfield News-Leader. He can be reached at cmeglio@gannett.com and can be found on X at Chris Meglio.
Corn sweat adds to sticky Missouri heat this week. Well, when it comes to Missouri summers, any lifelong resident will tell you it's not the heat, it's the humidity. And with multiple heat advisories issued throughout the state amid a heat dome pummeling most of the Midwest, that phrase has never rung truer. But what if one of Missouri's most abundant crops pushes already high humidity levels even further? Well, the next byline reads, what is, quote, corn sweat? Well, corn sweat refers to the process known as evapotranspiration. Corn plants, like other plants, absorb water through their roots for growth and photosynthesis. Any excess moisture is then released as vapor through tiny pores in their leaves called stomata into the atmosphere, according to crop intelligence firm Taranis. In states that have hundreds of millions of acres of corn and soybean crops, like Missouri, corn sweat can release an incredible amount of water vapor into the air, making already muggy days even muggier. Our next byline says, how much does corn sweat? Well, an acre of corn gives off about 3,000 to 4,000 gallons of water each day, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. The USDA recorded about 3.8 million acres of corn in Missouri in 2025. So if we do the math, we find that a staggering 11.4 to 15.2 billion gallons of water are pumped into the atmosphere each day throughout the state just by corn alone. So how much does corn sweat actually contribute to humidity? Well, though corn sweat certainly contributes to moisture levels, especially in the latter summer months, it really only makes up a fraction of the humidity in the air. Transpiration accounts for around 10% of the moisture in the air, with the other 90% coming almost entirely from bodies of water, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The current heat wave in Missouri is being driven by a high-pressure system stalled over the central United States. Andrew Ansorg, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, told USA Network. So here are some tips from the University of Missouri on how to control humidity inside your home. Caulk and weather strip your home. Open all your windows early in the morning to get rid of heat and help cool the home. Keep the house closed during the hottest time of the day. Use floor and ceiling fans as much as possible to circulate a cooling breeze. Take showers early in the morning or late at night. Use appliances and equipment that give off heat, such as an iron, TV, hairdryer, etc., only as needed, and limit use to the early morning or at night. Try not to use your stove if possible to keep from heating the kitchen. Cover cooking pots, use exhaust fans, and use a dehumidifier when needed.
This is the Springfield News-Leader. Lake of the Ozarks ranks among cleanest U.S. lakes study finds. One of Missouri's largest lakes is among the cleanest in the nation, according to a new report. A study conducted by Lake.com, a vacation rental platform for properties near or on water, focused on 100 large lakes in the United States and their chemical data from January 1st, 2020 to July 15, 2025. The lakes were tested for 8 of the most commonly measured characteristics that can be suggested their cleanliness, including pH, ammonia, and lead. There's a picture of here, Missouri Ozarks, featured thousands of caves. It's beautiful. It looks like a pretty green. It's a nice scenery. It's a man in a canoe. What's the cleanest lakes in Missouri? Lake.com rated the Lake of the Ozarks as the 4th cleanest lake in the country. The lake earned a 1.85 out of 10 in its pollution score, bolstered primarily by its low pH and sulfate levels, as well as its lack of lead and ammonia. The report lists the following measurements for the lake: dissolved oxygen 7.5, phosphorus 0.01, sulfate 1.66, turbidity 2.3, difference from pH 2.3, pollution score 1.85 out of 10. What did Lakes.com have to say about the Lake of the Ozarks? With 54,000 surface acres and 1,150 miles of shoreline, more coastline than the entire state of California, it is the largest non-flooded controlled man-made lake in the United States. The lake's distinction, serpentine-shaped strength, 92 miles from Bagnell Dam to the lake's western reach, earned its nickname, the Magic Dragon. The lake extends across 4 Missouri counties, Camden, Morgan, Miller, and Benton, with the city of Osage Beach as the busy southeast junction of the main channel and the Grand Glades arm serving as the region's commercial hub. What are the cleanest lakes in the nation? Lake.com listed these lakes as the cleanest in the nation. Lake Superior, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ontario. That's number 1. Lake Cleon in Washington. Lake Hartwell in Georgia and South Carolina. Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. Lake Penn Oriole, Idaho. Lake Winnebago in Minnesota. Kentucky Lake, Kentucky and Tennessee. Lake Norman, North Carolina. Lake Mead, Arizona and Nevada. Flathead Lake in Montana. One of the dirtiest lakes in the nation. Lake.com listed the following lakes as the dirtiest lakes in the nation: Lake Okeechobee in Florida, American Falls Reservoir in Idaho, Lake Texamo, Oklahoma and Texas, Eufaula Lake, Oklahoma, Lake Clark in Alaska, Lake George, Florida, Utah Lake in Utah, Oneida Lake in New York, Pyramid Lake in Nevada, Richland Chambers Reservoir in Texas.
And a new ordinance targets illegal signs in Springfield. The City Council also passed a measure reinstating sign regulations from the previous Land Development Code. And we see a picture of the Springfield City Council meeting. This was a picture taken from October of last year. In an effort to crack down on illegal signs in public right-of-way or on public property, commonly referred to as bandit signs, the Springfield City Council on June 22nd passed an ordinance creating a new enforcement mechanism for city staff to use in addressing violations. In a separate unrelated move, the City Council also approved a text amendment to the City Code reinstating certain sign regulations from the previous Land Development Code, which was replaced by a new code earlier this year, after the new standards produced outcomes different from the previous regulations, despite the new sign code being framed as having, quote, no change in impact. Both measures were passed 7 to zip, with 2 council members absent. Ordinance applies to the city, county, state, and federal property right-of-way. The ordinance targeting illegal signs did not change existing regulations on where signs can be placed. Instead, it created a new enforcement mechanism by establishing a prima facie framework assigning responsibility to the person, business, or organization referenced on the signage. Quote, the only change is to strengthen the city's ability to enforce existing law and address chronic violators more effectively. Deputy City Manager Colin Quigley told council members at the June 8th council meeting where the bill was taken up for a first reading, later adding that it's already illegal to place signs on public right-of-way. The ordinance, he said, was prompted by a significant increase in illegal signs throughout Springfield. These signs obstruct views, they distract drivers, and detract from the community's appearance, Quigley said. The ordinance also authorizes the city to address illegal signs placed on any kind of public property or right-of-way, whether owned by the city, county, state, or federal government. Quote, it's expansive here. It's on any kind of public property, so it's buildings, trees that would be considered public property, whether these would be illegal, utility poles, right-of-way, Quigley said. Right now we have really city right-of-ways, so there would be state right-of-way, federal right-of-way, county right-of-way, so anything that's public. In the context of signs placed next to the roadway, Quigley said public right-of-way extends 5 feet from the curb under city code. Behind the sidewalk or utility pole is typically where the right-of-way ends, Quigley said. Obviously, at intersections, there's a slight distance that we have to make sure we don't block views of the traffic that pulls out there. The ordinance defines sign as, quote, any advertisement, announcement, direction, or communication produced in whole or in part by the construction, erection, affixing, or placing a structure on any land or on any other structure, or produced by painting on or posting or placing any printed, lettered, pictured, figured, or colored material on any building, structure, or service. Violators will be subject to the city's general penalty ordinance, which authorizes a fine of up to $1,000 and imprisonment of up to 180 days. Each day that the violation continues is considered a new and separate offense. The penalty would ultimately be determined by a municipal court judge based on the evidence provided by the Department of Building Development Services and city prosecutors. While the person, business, or organization referenced on the sign would initially be assumed responsibly for the violation, they would be able to contest that assumption in court. The element of this makes it a little bit easier to at least write a citation, Quigley said. You put it out there, come to court, and explain it. And if they're able to, in front of a judge, explain the situation effectively, then I'm sure the judge is going to take that into consideration. City Attorney Jordan Paul emphasized that the city would prioritize education over enforcement, noting that the biggest problem is serial offenders who've been told multiple times that it's not lawful and, quote, they don't care. Reinstatement of previous sign code sets stage for larger conversion is the next byline. At the recommendation of both city staff and Planning and Zoning Commission, the City Council passed another sign-related measure, but for a completely different type of sign, those requiring a permit. Specifically, Council voted to reinstate some of the city's previous sign regulations, which were replaced with a new sign code April 7th, when the updated Land Development Code went into effect following the citywide remapping project. While various elements of the wide-ranging code impact are intended to revolutionize how Springfield is developed moving forward, the rewritten sign code is not. Rather, it was supposed to have, quote, no change in impact from the previous regulation. However, that has not been the case, according to Justin Crichton, Assistant Director of Planning and Development. What we found in implementation was different, Crichton said at the June 8th meeting. In a handful of places as written or could reasonably be interpreted as written, it did shift some outcomes. So this amendment request is being made to restore the old baseline. There's no new policy, no tighter restrictions, but it does set the stage for a larger conversation about signs and sign policy in the future. Supporting documents also call for a, quote, more robust stakeholder conversation about sign regulation before substantive changes to the sign code can occur. The text amendment approved by Council is specific and targeted, Crichton stated. The idea is restoration, so the chief one among them is restoring the center line method for measuring setbacks for signs, Crichton said. There are a few other items that need to be tidied up and put back in place. Standard sign allowances and maintenance provisions and other exemptions applicants were already used to. This is an article written by Jack McGee, who is the government affairs reporter at the Springfield Daily Citizen.
Thank you for tuning in to the Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service. Our broadcasts are available live on YouTube from Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and on demand via the Audio Reader Network at www.reader.ku.edu. Access options include Amazon Alexa, mobile app, and radio via KSMU Radio at 91.1 FM, 67 gigahertz of carrier from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. Contact the Audio Reader Network for radio receivers. This is from the Springfield News-Leader, preparing for new Springfield restaurant and dry bar powered by Faith. Devin Head was an inside sales specialist working with people directly under Elon Musk at SpaceX. Victor McNeary used to throw parties across the country. Looking for a new direction, each separately leaned on their faith. Now the two just started a partnership to open a Springfield establishment combining Tennessee-style food truck business, alternative eats, and non-alcoholic event venue Vine and Vibes in early August 2026. The restaurant and dry bar will be called Vine and Vibes, the Alternative Eats Lounge. We want our customers to come right in and just feel comfortable, relax, unwind, McNeary said. Just either chill out, let's take a muse again, or just eat and have fun. In August 2025, after McNeary quit the party industry, he acquired a downtown Springfield venue to open the Vine and Vibes in what would have been the first zero-proof bar in the state of Missouri. After 7 months of hard work, he held successful soft openings and was set to open his doors to the public. That was until he went to the local municipal office to complete his paperwork. Representatives of the city told McNeary the space he owned is for commercial use only, not for assembly space. Therefore, his business couldn't operate there. They show a picture here of Vine and Vibes. It was located at 314 South Patton Avenue, downtown Springfield. A few weeks later, in desperation mode, McNeary drove around the city one morning looking for a business partner, preferably a food truck owner. Only one was open that day, but the owner didn't speak English. That's when he turned on Sunshine Street in final effort and found the Alternative Eats. Little did McNeary know that Devin and her husband, Bryson, had been desperately looking for a business partner as well. The answer had been praying for. That's right, there it is in itself was like a sign to me, McNeary said. Like it, gave me the chills. After being denied a promotion at a corporate job, she declined to name the company for a position she felt more than qualified to have. Devin left the company in March 2025 and opened a food truck business with the help of her husband, Bryson. Shortly after the business started, she became chronically ill. Her husband ultimately quit his full-time job as a security guard to take over the business. Devin was bedridden for months after surgery for a parathyroid and thyroid issue, then later on spent more time recovering from C-section surgery after giving birth to a baby girl. When you're married and things happen, it's not always 50-50, she said. Sometimes it's 100% and 0, and if you just stick through it, you'll learn on the other side of a positive way. In need of help, the Heads turned to prayer. A response came, they said, when McNeary arrived at their food truck that April morning. It was a match made in heaven. Bryson was just praying for something different, like some opportunity, some change, and then literally it was that morning. Victor rolled up, Devin said, but that was only step one. They searched venue after venue before stumbling upon the 3-story building on Patton Avenue in downtown Springfield. It was love at first sight for all three. Everything happened for a reason, McNeary said. When we found this right here, it was love at first sight. They show the inside of it. It's brick building. They got it decorated. Nice little light in the background. We walked in and we were like, this is home. Like, this is it, Devin said. The building, which had been home to several restaurants in the past, already featured built-in bars on every level and a kitchen on the second level, among other amenities, saving the partners a couple of $100,000 they otherwise might have spent on infill, Devin said. The 15,000 square foot property, located at 314 South Patton Avenue, featured 3 floors, 3 bars, 2 dining areas, an event space for private parties, a patio, and a balcony. The building originally was built in 1860. The first level is 3,000 square feet, the smallest of the 3 levels, though it pairs with the bar and an outdoor patio by the front doors. This level will serve as a social space for casual drinkers and small dining groups. The second and third floors each cover 6,000 square feet. The kitchen and the main dining area will be based on the second floor, along with 3-shelf bar, a closed section for VIP parties, and an inside balcony view. All the way upstairs will be an exclusive room for renting parties with its own bar and bathrooms. They show a picture of the upstairs. It's pretty nice. You can see the kitchen and the bar area. It's just breathtaking up there, Devin said. The space, the ambience, and the potential of things we could put in the kitchen and produce for our customers, the sky's the limit. McNeary's goal is to stay open until 3:30 to 4 a.m. on the weekends, later than the bars in the area, so people have a place to go sober up before they head home. Hickok Steakhouse and Brewery occupied the space from December 2005 to August 2008. After nearly 8 years of vacancy, City Butchers owners opened CB Social House in August 2016 and had a short window of success before rebranding to Social on Patton in February 2018. Another 15 months went by before the business closed in 2019. Vibes and Vimes, your alternative eats lounge, is set to have a soft launch in late July and plans to open its doors in early August.
MSU refutes report over Chinese MBA program, launches review of other partnerships. A report written by a business consulting firm makes substantiated claim that MSU spent about 2 decades training Chinese defense executives with money from U.S. taxpayers. And we see a picture of a Chinese flag flying displayed among other international flags on the Missouri State University campus. This was taken last year. Missouri State University refutes a study that accuses it of using U.S. taxpayer money to train Chinese defense executives and defended an executive master's in business administration degree program it used to offer. MSU has also launched a review of its other programs for Chinese students in the wake of the study. Quote, the report contains numerous mischaracterizations and factual inaccuracies, including unsupported claims that taxpayer dollars funded the former executive MBA program, according to a statement from the university. No taxpayer dollars were directed toward the program, as the report alleges, but readily admits it cannot substantiate. The study was released June 24th by Strategy Risks, a New York-based intelligence firm. The report, entitled Heartland for Hire, states that MSU spent 2 decades training China's defense executives with American taxpayer money. Isaac Stonefish, CEO and founder of the company, said the 25-page study was written through research into documents and records found on the internet. Recent reporting from the Springfield Daily Citizen is cited in the study. It also includes reports from the Springfield News-Leader to assemble its conclusions. The study's lead author wrote it under a pseudonym, with the firm stating it was to protect their safety. Quote, we want to give MSU the benefit of the doubt because one of 2 things happened, Stonefish said. Either MSU took U.S. taxpayer money to train Chinese defense contractors, or MSU made money training Chinese defense contractors. The study footnotes acknowledge that statements in its headline cannot be verified. Quote, it concedes that the use of taxpayer money, which the study estimates at tens of millions of dollars, cannot be confirmed because no U.S. records exist. While it points out that more than 1,500 students participated in the program between 2002 and 2018, it presents evidence of only 2 of those students accepting positions that could be considered related to China's military. Colleges and universities generally have no control over the career students enter after graduation. Nevertheless, the university has launched a review of its Chinese outreach programs, and it no longer is associated with the financial entity that was involved in paying for the tuition of those MBA students. Missouri State values international education and takes seriously its responsibility to comply with applicable laws and regulations and to evaluate international partnerships in light of current academic, legal, compliance, and security considerations, according to a statement. The university did not make any of its officials available for an interview in response to the Daily Citizen's request. The Daily Citizen submitted questions via email and received statements attributable only to the university. Daily Citizen reporter Steve Pokin, in a 3-part series published in October of 2025, detailed the relationship between MSU and 2 Chinese universities. He covered why fewer Chinese students have been attending MSU's Springfield campus, the experiences of MSU employees who lived and taught in China, and the early days of how the partnership was established. Most of the Chinese students took classes related to business or plant science. In October, MSU Associate Vice President for Community and Global Partnerships, Brad Bodenhausen, said that was by design. The university did not want to offer technology or engineering programs that could involve research the U.S. government would not want shared with the Chinese government. The program criticized in the Strategy Risks report is an executive's Master of Business Administration degree, which existed outside of the partnership with Laon, which is one of the Chinese universities, according to previous Daily Citizen reporting. The Strategy Risk study alleged that the Chinese Communist Party controlled which students were admitted, and that some testing requirements were reduced, such as not having to take the GMAT or TOEFL tests required of other foreign students, Stonefish said. The university said those allegations were unfounded. MSU said that the Executive Masters of Business Administration program offered the same curriculum as its traditional MBA program. It featured curriculum designed to develop business acumen and leadership, managerial, analytical, and strategic decision-making skills applicable across a broad range of business disciplines, according to the statement. Final decisions about who was admitted to the program made entirely by MSU, the university said. Chinese students received backing from sponsoring organizations, but those groups had no say in approval. Prospective sponsoring organizations were briefed in advance on Missouri State's EMBA admission requirements, application process, and program expectations, according to the university statement. Agreements with those organizations explicitly outline those requirements. The role of sponsors limited to promoting the program, screening potential applicants using Missouri State's admission criteria, and forwarding applications. While the Strategy Risks Study made use of Daily Citizen reporting to get information about the EMBA program, it didn't mention MSU winded down the program in recent years because of some of the same concerns that the Strategy Risks report flagged. Bodenhausen in October said that both sides of the partnership started losing interest. On MSU's side, it was based on concerns not over intellectual property, but how the property partners it worked with could have Chinese governmental connections, which made the university uncomfortable. We want to be responsible in our global engagement too and be cautious and not pursue partnerships that would put anything potentially at risk from a corporate or technological espionage standpoint, Bodenhausen said in October. I don't think those programs did that. I don't think that's a significant concern, but the reality is in this environment, that's not an area where the Chinese companies are looking to connect, and it's not a high priority for us. Though the report states that many graduates went on to senior roles in China's defense industry, strategic supply chains, and surveillance technology sector, it cites only 2 of the estimated 1,500 students, one working for the Aviation Industry Corporation of China, a company sanctioned by the U.S. for ties to the country's military, and one who is a vice president, an AI and voice recognition company the U.S. alleges was involved in actions. 5 other students were also identified as being graduates of note, in quotes there. Stonefish said that the study did not look at the full list of program graduates. Quote, we highlighted select examples of folks who ran into AVIC and other companies, Stonefish said. In our mind, there were striking numbers of people we were able to find that had ties, but we're not saying we had access to everyone who went there. The Daily Citizen asked Stonefish about how many students they examined before starting to extrapolate trends and will update this report if a reply is received. The study reported that the author could find no evidence that any federal agency ever flagged the MSU program as a concern. The next byline reading, funding mechanism, no longer exists. While the study could not confirm that taxpayer money was used, it raised questions about the financial vehicles used to pay tuition costs. Using translations of records from the Chinese state-controlled internet, the Strategy Risks Report alleges that half of the costs were paid for by the Chinese government. A quarter of the costs paid for by students, and the remaining was paid for by the U.S. government. The study said that through records obtained from MSU's Office of Research Administration, the university requested more than $18 million from an entity named IMEC. MSU, in its statement to the Daily Citizen, did not elaborate on how it was paid for its tuition costs, but that it no longer maintains a relationship with IMEC. And the next byline, origins of study, comes from nonprofit clients. Strategy Risks is a business that specializes in research geopolitical risk analysis with a special focus on China, describing it as one of the world's most important and yet most opaque countries. It aims to help other businesses taking economic advantage of China's buying power while mitigating risks of dealing with its communist government. Chinese relations with the U.S. have worsened over the last few years. The Trump administration last year tightened restrictions on Chinese students studying in the U.S. Stonefish said it became aware of MSU's program as it was conducting a study over a 3-month period into possible Chinese influence into U.S. higher education. He said it highlights a potential gap in state and federal oversight efforts. We thought Missouri State was a fascinating case study, Stonefish said. We're not alleging any mishandling of sensitive or classified information. We're not alleging any IP theft. While this is another part of Beijing's strategy via the U.S., whereby the EU used Missouri State for capacity building for Chinese defense contractors. The study was commissioned by, quote, multiple nonprofits concerned with education in the U.S. The Daily Citizen has asked for clarification about any political affiliations of those nonprofits and will update if a reply is received. Political pressures are at play, as the next byline. Stonefish said in his group and the study are intended to be bipartisan in nature. Anyone concerned about a political motivation is invited to review the data they collected, including its shortcomings and allegations that cannot be verified. The report has already received media coverage. Fox News and several conservative media sites covered the report nationally. Springfield Business Journal covered it locally, noting MSU's dispute. Missouri State over the last 2 years has responded to political pressure from both legislators and political groups. It cut its Office of Inclusive Engagement and halted programs related to diversity, equity, and inclusion over the threat of losing state funding in its annual budget. After a lawsuit was filed on behalf of 3 unnamed students by a conservative activism group, the university hastened the planned end of a bias response team that investigated complaints from members of the university community. MSU's review of its programs and partnerships with China comes with no timeline, according to the statement. The university is committed to offering its education to international students across the world, viewing this international outreach as part of its public affairs mission. While it hosts students from many different countries, the relationships with the 2 Chinese universities are the only ones of their kind, according to previous reporting. Missouri State values international education and takes seriously its responsibility to comply with applicable laws and regulations, and to evaluate international partnerships in light of current academic, legal, compliance, and security considerations, according to the statement. And an editor's note here, former MSU President Cliff Smart, who retired in 2024, is cited several times in Strategy Risks report. Smart joined the Daily Citizen's board of directors in 2025. He was not consulted or involved while reporting this story.
This is Springfield News-Leader. Missouri ice cream shop named best in the state. Here's why. Think you know the best ice cream shop in Missouri? Ask 10 people and you'll likely get 10 different answers. Cheapism, a website focused on budget living, is weighing in on the debate with its recently released list of the best ice cream shops in every state. Here's what it selected as Missouri's best ice cream spot. What's the best ice cream shop in Missouri, according to Cheapism? The media outlet selected the winners by scouring through Reddit threads, Yelp reviews, Google ratings, and local favorites to find the best ice cream shops in every state. Factoring of all that in, the honor of Missouri's best ice cream shop goes to Clementine's Ice Cream in St. Louis. Clementine's is a locally owned Arsenio ice cream shop funded in 2015, known for its naughty, alcohol-infused, and nice non-alcoholic offerings, as well as a non-dairy options. The company has expanded from its beginnings as a single shop to multiple locations, boasting 11 shops across the Midwest, with 3 more on the way. What's Clementine's best ice cream flavor? Clementine's also landed on Food and Wine's list of essentials ice cream flavors for all 50 states with its gooey butter cake ice cream. The magazine praised the super creamy texture of cream cheese ice cream and appreciated the large chunks of Clementine's homemade gooey butter cake mixed throughout. What is gooey butter cake? For those not in the know, gooey butter cake is one of Show Me State's best kept secrets, with its origins tracing back to St. Louis in the 1930s. The cake allegedly came about when a baker accidentally reversed the butter to flour ratio while baking a batch of coffee cake, resulting in a gooey custard-like filling. Given it was the Great Depression, the bakery decided to sell the resulting cake rather than waste it, making it a hit with the locals in the process. It became so popular, in fact, that other bakeries in the city soon began making their own versions, and an iconic Missouri treat was born. How to find a Clementine's near you? Clementine has more than a dozen locations, mostly centered around St. Louis. It also has locations in Kansas City and Bentonville, Arkansas. A Clementine is scheduled to open in Columbia this summer. Check out this map to find nearest Clementine locations near you. You can also get Clementine shipped directly to your front door via Gold Belly.
State budget earmark for Springfield Convention Center avoids a veto and remains restricted. The Springfield voters twice rejected a hotel tax increase to fund a convention center project, and we see an aerial view of the Springfield Expo Center. This was taken last November. For the second consecutive year, Governor Mike Kehoe placed a $30 million state budget earmark for a Springfield Convention Center under an expenditure restriction when signing the state budget Tuesday, June 30th. Unlike a line item veto, which denies funding to a particular item, an expenditure restriction allows the governor to temporarily or permanently withhold funding, depending on state revenues, among other factors. While the $30 million earmark was not released in the prior fiscal year, it was reappropriated by the legislature. Kehoe previously indicated that its release was partly dependent on voter approval of a proposed 3% hotel tax increase to fund the renovation and expansion of the city-owned Springfield Expo Center, estimated at $175 million. Springfield voters twice rejected the proposed tax increase, first in November of 2025 and again in April of 2026. Prior to the November vote, the Springfield City Council allocated $30 million in local matching funds toward the project as required by the state appropriation. The local match has not been reappropriated. The Citizens Advisory Board, which recommended the $30 million local match, has not been meeting in recent months as City Council works to get the group to be in compliance with the city charter. Combined with existing hotel tax revenues, the tax increase would have covered debt service on $145 million in bonds over 30 years. At a 5.25 interest rate, the debt service was estimated to reach $318,256,688 by the time of its retirement in 2057. The state funding and local match was intended to help kickstart the project, which was based on the recommendation of a market demand and feasibility study conducted by the tourism consulting firm Hunden Partners. And we see a picture of preliminary rendering of the proposed convention and event center as seen from the air. And as we mentioned, for the second time in 5 months, voters on April 7th had rejected that proposed hotel tax increase. Following the most recent vote in April, City Manager David Cameron said the project was likely dead. Mayor Jeff Schrag agreed. However, the city has yet to reappropriate its local match, and the state funding, while restricted, remains on the table. The city declined to comment on the state budget earmark and how it might be used if released. In total, Kehoe issued 78 expenditure restrictions, 46 more than last year. He also issued 65 vetoes, totaling over $30 million in general revenue. The state operating budget for fiscal year 2027, which begins today, July 1st, 2026, totals $49.8 billion, almost $1 billion less than the $50.7 billion budget approved by the legislature. Quote, "I appreciate the members of the General Assembly for their partnership in passing a budget that reflects our shared commitment to fiscal discipline and responsible stewardship of taxpayer dollars," Kehoe said in a press release. After several years of historic growth in spending, this budget funds smart and necessary investments while also taking an important step towards right-sizing government to ensure Missouri remains positioned for long-term success.
This is Springfield Daily Citizen. Missouri University celebrates expansion of Springfield Medical School. About 300 turn out for ribbon cutting that celebrate a major Mizzou expansion, and Springfield University President Mun Choi said other expansions could be in the future. There's a picture here of several of them. The yellow ribbon was cut to celebrate the University of Missouri's medical school expansion on Wednesday, June 24th, 2026 in Springfield. Maya Greenquist is excited for her third year of medical school. After graduating from Missouri Southern State University in Joplin, she started a pursuit of a medical doctorate degree at the University of Missouri's Columbia campus. She just finished a move to Springfield and is looking forward to finishing her degree in Southwest Missouri. "I had never lived in a college town before," Greenquist said, "so that was an adjustment of how I didn't realize how busy the streets would be during game days." There's a picture of her here, big surprised smile on her face. Greenquist was one of about 20 MU medical students in the crowd of about 300 in attendance for a ribbon-cutting ceremony Wednesday, June 24th. The university celebrated the School of Medicine Springfield campus, opening at its new property located on the Jack Henry campus near Battlefield Road and Highway 65. When the fall semester starts, the building would host Springfield area students across 4 cohorts, a change from the model MU used last year. Previously, students such as Greenquist attended their first 2 years in Columbia, then could finish their final 2 years, include clinicals, at the old Springfield campus on National Avenue. David Haustein, Associate Dean, said the expansion would help students get situated in the Ozarks more quickly and effectively. It's a little bit disruptive to move halfway through your education, Housen said. The fact of getting to spend all 4 years in one community is really an opportunity for them to build relationships and put down roots. We're really excited for the opportunities that we'll have here. During the event, the opening of the clinic was described as a game changer by several of the speakers. While it represents a new footprint for the University of Missouri, it also marks a continued partnership between the university and Springfield's two major healthcare systems. Students complete clinicals at Cox Health and Mercy Springfield Centers. MU President Mun Choi said that the campus represents the growth of all the partnerships involved. This partnership, which began 10 years ago, has now blossomed into a 4-year medical degree program, Choi said. What I'm most excited about is that the students are going to graduate and will continue to serve Springfield and the surrounding rural regions. For us, this is really meeting the land grant mission that we have at the university. There's a picture here of Mun Choi in a blue suit with a paisley tie. Similar to Missouri State University Public Affairs mission, MU has a land grant mission that emphasizes providing the benefits of a world-class research university to all of its state's residents. Unlike Missouri State's mission, which was enriched by the state's legislature, MU's mission has been embedded since 1870 when the state accepted the provisions of 1862 Morrill Act and received federal land for its campus. That has been important for increasing the number of doctors and other healthcare professionals. A shortage of practicing physicians is expected to get worse in the coming years, and 90% of Missouri's counties currently don't have enough doctors. State Senator Lincoln Howe said that the model found at MU Medical School is an outstanding example of how to address that shortage. He said that the progress can be made when agencies look past rivalries and work together. There's a picture here of State Lincoln Howe speaks during the ribbon cutting ceremony for the University of Missouri Medical Expansion on Wednesday, June 24th. He's wearing a blue suit with the white shirt. They have excellence in the background. Can't really see what the other one says. He also said investing in education is an outstanding tool for boosting the state's economy. You know what the best economic development tool is in the world is? Education, Howe said during the event. It's making sure that the next generation has every single opportunity that we can possibly give them. And if we all work together, and if we all pour out resources, and we all get out of our own ways, this is what you see. MU's expansion plan for its medical school calls for accepting cohorts of 32 students in 2027. By 2030, it hopes to have 128 students in Springfield, bringing its entire enrollment across both campuses to more than 670 students. The university also opened up a new admissions program that ensures Springfield area students can transfer into available spots. They have a graph here that shows the School of Medicine does attending a regional medical campus impact matching into diversity specialties for residency. Choi said afterwards that the programs made at the medical school could pave the way for more Tigers in the city. He said that the system's 4 universities have programs that could be expanded to Springfield, such as Missouri's S&T's engineering. The university may also evaluate the need for a law school here. Choi said that it will be difficult with universities' funding expected to decrease in the coming years, but the university remains committed to developing and expanding in Springfield campus. Every organization has their priorities that they will be investing in regardless of the financial situation, Choi said. This is that priority because so many people depend on education that we provide that eventually leads to clinical care. And if not us, who else will do it? We are deeply committed. Reporters notes, this report has been edited to correct details about MU's land grant mission. Joe Hasdell is the educated reporter for the Springfield Daily Citizen. Hasdell has more than 2 decades of experience reporting in the Ozarks with Joplin Globe, Christian County Headliner News, and 417 Magazine. You can contact him at 417-837-3671 or jhasdell@springfieldcitizen.org.
From the Springfield News-Leader, safety protocols advised in the Ozarks amid sweltering 4th of July heat. And a couple of key points here. The Ozarks region is expecting a heat wave for the 4th of July holiday weekend. High humidity and temperatures in the 90s are forecast for us here in Springfield. And officials advise residents to stay hydrated, use sunscreen, and take breaks in the shade or indoors. A rainy June has transitioned into a heat wave as the Ozarks prepares for the 4th of July. As residents prepare to spend time outdoors amid the extreme heat, it's worth reviewing weather-related safety tips that can help ensure the holiday weekend goes off without a hitch. The first byline reads, incoming heat wave. Well, the summer solstice marks the longest day of the year in terms of sunlight. It indicates the peak amount of solar radiation from the sun hitting the northern hemisphere, with temperatures expected to rise in the following weeks, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The 2026 summer solstice was June 21st, which means Springfield is coasting into its hottest stretch of the year over the next several weeks. The National Weather Service shows Springfield will be averaging a high of 91 degrees from June 30th through July 5th. Now, we all want to know 4th of July weather in Springfield. On July 4th, humidity is expected to reach up to 70%, along with a 24% chance of rain, the NWS forecast showing. The UV index, an indicator of the ultraviolet rays intensity that comes from the sun, is expected to reach a 9 out of 11 on the scale. At night, temperatures will drop to as low as 71 degrees, though the humidity will jump up to 83%. Showers are expected to take place in the morning, along with the occasional light rain throughout the day. Past few weeks of heavy precipitation brought significant amounts of moisture to the area. Paired with the expected humidity levels, the fire risk is low. And what follows is actually a picture of the Victorian drill team. They're a perennial Springfield 4th of July favorite, and they are set to appear in Springfield's old-fashioned 4th of July parade in historic Midtown. By the way, take note that'll be begin at 10 a.m. on July 4th. Well, who is at risk from extreme heat is the next headline. Vulnerable people susceptible to the heat include babies and children, elderly folk, pregnant women, those battling chronic illnesses, including cardiovascular diseases and diabetes, and, of course, pets. According to Kids and Car Safety, approximately 40 children and hundreds of pets die in hot cars annually. Over half of hot car deaths come at the hands of a person unknowingly at fault. Approximately 25% of hot car deaths happen when a child climbs into a car, can't get out, and about 86% of hot car deaths among children involve those aged 3 and younger. The NWS advises people to practice the, quote, look before you lock rule, making sure all children and animals are out of the car before locking. Safety precautions. With elevated temperatures in the forecast, residents celebrating the 4th of July should be wary of the amount of time spent outside. The NWS recommends making use of areas of shade, scheduled breaks indoors with air conditioning, having ice water on standby, and using sunscreen. Shirt or no-sleeve shirts and short pants can help deal with the heat, while light, long-sleeve clothing can be good to prevent sunburn. Hats and sunglasses are options to protect the face. And, of course, fireworks safety. The United States Consumer Product Safety Commission website says an estimated 13,000 people were injured by fireworks in 2025, the largest share of the group between the ages of 15 and 24. Hands and fingers were the most frequently injured body parts, followed by the head, face, and ears. The CPSC advises these safety tips when using fireworks. Never allow young children to play with or ignite fireworks, including sparklers. Sparklers burn at temperatures of about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt some metals. Keep a bucket of water or a garden hose handy in case of fire or other mishap. Make sure fireworks are legal in your area and only purchase and set off fireworks that are labeled for consumer, not professional use. Never use fireworks while impaired by alcohol or drugs. Light fireworks one at a time, then move back quickly. Never try to relight or pick up fireworks that have not ignited fully. And follow all instructions and warnings on fireworks and never hold them in hand unless instructions specify to do so.
This is from the 417, the ultimate Great Plains family road trip from the Ozarks. Embark on an all-American Great Plains summer road trip that's tailor-made for 2026. This flexible drive is doable from the Ozarks for adventurous road trippers, and it's packed big scenery, presidential history, and classic Western culture. There's a picture here of a Western scene. Got the little salons and little bistros. If there were ever a summer for a classic American road trip, 2026 is it. No, we're not talking about Route 66, but do that too. This is the one especially well-timed, serendipitous. Stretching roughly 260 miles from Rapid City, South Dakota to Medora, North Dakota, this route through Great Plains ties together two presidential landmarks with a whole lot of romantic Western drama in between. The granite icons of Mount Rushmore at one end and the new Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library opening, presidential landmarks with a whole lot of romantic Western dramas in between, the granite icons of Mount Rushmore at one end and the new Theodore Presidential Library opening July 4th at the other. And in between, it's all Roman bison, colorful bald lands, tiny cowboy towns, prairie sunsets, and some of the most cinematic scenery in the country. Start in the Black Hills, where patriotism and adventure collide in a wholesome, thoroughly American way. Mount Rushmore will serve as the centerpiece of the nation's American 250 celebration with a rare July 3rd firework extravaganza, only the second there in nearly 2 decades, making the monument feel newly relevant, not just historic. But Rushmore is only South Dakota's opening act. Rapid City, nicknamed the City of Presidents for the life-size bronze statue of every U.S. president dotting downtown, makes an ideal base for exploring the Black Hills. Spend a day driving Needles Highway through towering granite spires and hairpin curves, then trade pavement for the trail on a hike to Cathedral Spires or Black Elk's Peak. In Custer State Park, Buffalo Safari Jeep tours rumble through grasslands filled with bison, elk, and pronghorn, while scenic drives manage to be both relaxing and thrilling. You'll find plenty of old school American here too. Board the 1880 train to ride through scenery you can't see any other way. Browse vintage shops in Rapid City or witness a Wild West shootout in the infamous Deadwood. This region has surprising range. One moment you're gazing up at the Crazy Horse Memorial, the next you're floating above the Black Hills in the sunrise hot air balloon. And because no one should skip the weird and wonderful on a summer road trip, side quests are part of the appeal. Detour to truly wild Badlands National Park for Martin Esquire stripped rock formations as far as the eyes can see. Pop over into Wyoming to marvel at Devil's Tower rising improbably from the prairie, or lean into frontier lore in towns like Sheridan and Buffalo. Then head north. As the surprisingly rugged Black Hills softens into open range, the landscape grows quieter, wider, and somehow more dramatic. The drive from Rapid City to Medora has the rare road trip quality where getting there is part of the point. Medora's population, barely 150, feels like a frontier outpost with excellent storytelling. This gateway town to the criminally undeterred Theodore Roosevelt National Park has long celebrated the conservation-minded president who credited North Dakota with shaping its life. Now, with the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library opening above the Little Missouri River, the town has a new centerpiece worthy of the setting. The building alone is reason enough to go. Designed to blend into the Badlands while meeting some of the world's highly sustainable standards, it generates its own energy, treats its own water, and disappears into the landscapes beneath a living roof designed for stargazing. Inside, immersive exhibits detail Roosevelt's life and ideals. Outside, the Badlands that transformed him stunned with their striking barrenness. Pair the library with a couple of days in the Theodore Roosevelt National Park, one of the country's little visited masterpieces. Wild horses roam here, bison clog the roads, prairie dogs towns chatter. At night, the dark skies feel almost theatrical. On lucky evenings, the northern lights make an appearance. That may be what makes this route feel so right for America's 250th. It doesn't just connect patriotic landmark, it traces two versions of the American myths at once: monumental history and untamed landscape. It also works at almost any pace. Do it in a long weekend, spending 2 days in each of the Black Hills and Medora, stretch it into a week with the side trips, or turn it into a slow RV ramble. Arguably one of the best ways to experience it. Campgrounds, scenic byways, and national park infrastructures make this corridor particularly RV friendly. How to do it? Rapid City is 13 hours from Springfield, taking you through Kansas City, Omaha, and Sioux Falls. each worthy of a day or so if you have time to spare. From there, Medora lies 4 hours almost directly north. If you're short on time, fly into Rapid City, rent a car or an RV, start your drive there. This still gives you the classic scenic road trip experience, plus allows you to spend 2 days in the Black Hills on either end.
And from the Springfield News-Leader, free oak tree disease testing continues across Missouri. Missouri residents can continue to get free testing for common oak tree diseases through a partnership between the University of Missouri Extension and the Missouri Department of Conservation. The MU Extension Plant Diagnostic Clinic is offering the service again after diagnosing more than 100 oak samples during the previous season, according to a community announcement. Quote, "We had a great season in 2025 as we received over 100 oak samples and diagnosed diseases, including bacterial leaf scorch, oak wilt, leaf galls, and so on," Peng Tian, director of the Plant Diagnostic Clinic on the MU campus, said in the announcement. "This allowed us to monitor the prevalence of the common diseases currently affecting oak trees in Missouri and scout for new or invasive diseases to better assist MDC with controlling forest pest problems. With this service, we hope to continue collecting information on the location and host species of oak diseases across the state and monitor the tree health of the state." And what follows is a picture of a home with a tree that has some signs of the disease that can be seen in the oak tree. The University of Missouri Extension Plant Diagnostic Clinic, in partnership, as we mentioned, is offering this free testing. Oaks are the most common trees in Missouri yards and forests, and two of the most frequently identified diseases are bacterial leaf scorch and oak wilt. Both conditions can spread to nearby trees, weakening or killing them over time. The next byline read, "How Oak Diseases Affect Trees." And we see a picture of a group of oak leaves in various stages of oak wilt, green, shades of green and gold. Oak wilt can quickly kill red oaks within months, while white oaks may weaken over time. Early symptoms in red oaks typically appear in late spring or early summer, beginning at the top of the tree. Leaves discover, wilt, and drop with browning along the edges. White oaks show similar symptoms later in the season, and trees infected over multiple years may develop dead branches in the crown. Bacterial leaf scorch, by comparison, disrupts the tree's ability to move water and nutrients, according to the announcement. There's no cure, and infected trees typically die within 5 to 8 years. Its symptoms may resemble drought stress and can only be confirmed through laboratory testing. Well, here's how you can submit samples for testing. Residents who suspect disease are asked to begin with a digital submission by sending 3 to 5 photos of the tree through muext.us. The fee listed on the site will be waived for testing of common oak diseases. The clinic will follow up with instructions for submitting physical samples based on the issue observed. For bacterial leaf scorch testing, residents should collect 20 to 30 leaves that are still green, but show symptoms, ensuring each includes the leaf system. Leaves should be placed in a sealed plastic bag with a damp paper towel and kept cool. For oak wilt testing, samples should include 4 to 6 live branch sections, measuring about 8 to 12 inches long and about half an inch to 1.5 inches in diameter, including signs of leaf wilt. Keep samples cool, don't freeze them, Dion said in the announcement. Samples that get hot during transit to the lab may not test positive for the fungus. Additional information about submissions is available on the clinic's website. The MU Plant Diagnostic Clinic is located at 1100 University Avenue, 28 Mumford Hall in Columbia, and open 9 to 4.
This is the 417, the best swimming holes in the Ozarks. Explore the coolest places to swim in the great outdoors that you can only find in Missouri and Arkansas. There's a picture here of some kids, and one's going off a rock, heading into one of the little dome holes. There is something about swimming holes that evokes nostalgia and excitement in the same moment. It's the way summer felt as a child, when every day contained a feeling of freedom and endless possibility of adventure and exploration. Here in the Ozarks, you're never far from capturing that feeling. All across the region, rivers and lakes abound, filling our little corner of the world with incredible swimming holes. We have our region's unusual topography to thank for our plethora of swimming spots. For thousands of years, long before it had a name, the Springfield Aquifer flowed beneath the Ozark Hills, carving out cracks and crevices in the soft dolomite and limestone rock, eventually allowing the water to make its way to the surface. As a result, the Ozark has one of the most abundant and clearest sources of groundwater in the country. I spent the summer researching and visiting swimming holes in and around southwest Missouri, and because there are too many to include all of them here, I've rounded up 13 of the favorites. Whether you're looking for a day of family fun, a romantic escape for the weekend, or the perfect place to hang out with friends, there is something for everyone. So strap up your shoes, slather on some sunscreen, and get out there and explore some of the best parts of the living in the Ozarks. Gunner Pool. The Gunner Pool Dam is probably unlike any other you've seen before. Constructed in the 1930s, the wall was built on North Seymour Creek by the Civil Conservation Corps and was crafted from local stones. At a glance, the dam almost looks like it's naturally occurring, or maybe like something you would read about in a J.R.R. Tolkien novel. The stair-step design of the wall creates a striking visual effect, but it's not just pretty to look at. You can climb and play on the dam, and the shallow pool below, it's a great spot for kids to wade and splash around in. The dam of the Gunner Pool Recreation Area is located near campsite 16 and 17. There's jumping cliffs close to the dam. To get there, cross the dam and follow the trail to the other side of the bluff. The water is the spot that can get a little murky due to the dam holding its levees and debris, so as always, check the water whether you'll be jumping to make sure that there are no limbs or rocks lurking below. Along with swimming, Gunner Pool Recreation Area, which is run in the U.S. Forest Service, offers camping, fishing, hiking. The trailhead for North Sycamore Hiking Trail is located within the campground and leads to 15 miles of gorgeous hiking along the creek through the Ozarks St. Francis National Forest. Whether you're camping or just visiting for the day, there is a $7 usage fee. The camping spots are private and shady, and there's even one right by the swimming hole if you're lucky enough to grab it. A steep dirt road leads into the recreation area, so large campers and RVs might want to steer clear. The Ozarks St. Francis National Forest offers tons of great swimming places, and we don't have space to mention them all here, but Mirror Lake is only about 15 minutes away, and it's definitely worth visit if you have the time.
From the Springfield Daily Citizen, former state trooper squares off with ex-state rep in race for Christian County presiding commissioner. The current presiding commissioner, Lynn Morris, is not running for re-election. And we see a picture of the two candidates. Christian County presiding commissioner candidates are Jared Taylor and, again, Terry Bible. Two Republican candidates are vying for that position in Christian County's August 4th primary election. Jared Taylor is a former state representative, and Terry Bible, a retired Missouri State Highway Patrol trooper. Presiding Commissioner Lynn Morris, 77, did not file for re-election. He told the Daily Citizen in late May that he expects to retire from his career as an elected official after finishing his term. Quote, "This county has been good to me," he said. Taylor, Bible, and all other candidates for elected positions in Christian County filed as Republicans. Only the race for presiding commissioner is contested. And we see a picture of a smiling Terry Bible on a park bench. He is a longtime resident of Southwest Missouri with nearly 30 years of experience in law enforcement. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 1990 to 1995 and went on to join Missouri State Highway Patrol Troop D, retiring in 2025. Now he lives in Spokane and works part-time for the Taney County Sheriff's Office. Bible said he's considered running for office for 20 years and is ready to take on a new full-time role in public service. Quote, "I'm 53, and I feel like I have a lot left to give to my community," he said. Bible said he's good with budgets and numbers, and his background in law enforcement trained him in leadership, conflict resolution, and managing time and people. Quote, "I've dealt with people from all walks of life, some of them on their worst day, and I just understand how to be a people person and to serve, the people in the community." Quote, he says if he is elected, Bible will look forward to helping county employees with incentives and benefits, an area for which he has, quote, some different ideas. He said he's always going to try to save our taxpayers' dollars and will work to negotiate contracts between companies and the county to save as much money as possible. The need for more infrastructure is one of the biggest challenges Christian County is facing, Bible said. With the overall growth comes the need for more infrastructure. More and more vehicles are traveling the roadways. The more vehicles you have, the more repairs are needed, and so it stresses these roads, he says. Jared Taylor is the other candidate, and we see again a picture of him sitting on a park bench. He served 4 terms in the Missouri House of Representatives. Taylor moved to Christian County about 20 years ago when he began working in loss prevention at Bass Pro in Branson. He was elected to the Missouri House of Representatives in 2014 and chaired several committees during his 8 years in office. quote, "I was known as the gun guy. I was a huge Second Amendment supporter," he said, describing the Second Amendment Preservation Act as his, quote, crowning achievement. In parentheses here to note, the law was later struck down by a federal judge whose ruling was upheld by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit. He said he's also worked on several other issues in different committees, including government oversight, issues in the Children's Division, and medical marijuana. Taylor now lives in the Clever area and works for Congressman Eric Burleson at the Springfield District Office. He said one reason he'd be a good commissioner is because he's found ways to pare down budgets in both the private sector and in the state government. Transportation is one of Christian County's biggest challenges, Taylor said, and the county needs to do a better job of getting people east and west in particular. Quote, "Being able to get from one side of the district to the other is difficult, especially during rush hour times, and a two-lane road on 14 and CC isn't cutting it, so we need to think outside the box," Taylor said. Christian County also needs to decide on its direction for growth over the next 10 to 15 years, Taylor said. If that is bringing in industry, if that's bringing in manufacturing, let's start working towards that, he said. How do we bring in the infrastructure to make sure that those are successful? And how do we recruit those businesses in order to think that far down the road? The next byline read, current presiding commissioner on future challenges. And we see a picture of Lynn Morris. As he prepares to retire, Morris said his proudest achievement in Christian County is increasing transparency. He pushed to live stream and post commission meetings on YouTube and start a newsletter for residents. Quote, "The more we can connect our people with county government, they're going to understand what we're trying to do. I've asked both the candidates to continue those things," Morris said. The presiding commissioner said revenue will be Christian County's most significant challenge moving forward. In early 2025, the county fired at least 2 people and shut down its recycling plant to save money. "The biggest challenge we have is making people understand that the business model we've had for over 100 years is not going to continue to work. Our sales tax growth is not keeping up with inflation and expenses," Morris said. And this was an article written by Zoe McIntyre, who covers Springfield's surrounding communities.
This is Springfield News-Leader. Missouri parent groups organized with school funding concerns. Sarah Laub tried everything to get her son with learning disabilities a better education. She drove him to a private school an hour and a half away from their home in rural Missouri before being directed to the local public school. When he continued to struggle, she tried homeschooling. The local school district in Stockton, a town with a population under 2,000, just couldn't provide everything her son needed despite teachers' best efforts. They really did not have the funds to provide him with everything he needed, and he really struggled, Loud told The Independent. As her son approached high school, she researched schools near Kansas City and decided to move her family to Blue Springs, a growing suburb with 20 schools awarded a National Blue Ribbon by the U.S. Department of Education. There, her son learned to enjoy his education and immerse himself in activities like theater. Seeing the difference that funding made and the difference in resources that rural school versus a suburb school had was so infuriating, Laub said all kids deserve to have access to those resources. For years, she fought for her son to get what he needed, but now she's bringing her anger to the large fight, one she believes the vast implications for public schools statewide. Lau is part of a coalition called Parents for Missouri Public Schools that has organized families against a proposed constitutional amendment that would allow the state lawmakers to raise sales and use taxes in order to repeal the state's income tax. Fueled by parents worried about the future of their kids' school, the organization is one of many groups labeling Amendment 5 an affront to public education. The fight over Amendment 5 has largely been framed as a tax debate, with those in favor of the proposal pitching in its way to drive more business to Missouri. But for the public school advocates, the central question is what happens to classrooms if the state phases out a tax that supplies a major share of general revenue and replaces it with sales tax under the purview of the state legislation. Amendment 5 could dramatically harm the bottom line of public education funding in time in which public schools cannot take another hit. Molly Fleming, a professional organizer behind Parents in Missouri Public School, told The Independent. State funding of the public school came up $138 million short this fiscal year due to the state budget over-reliance on lottery and gaming taxes, reducing the amount of per pupil funding by a couple $100. The discrepancy has a disproportion effort on schools who rely heavily on that state support, which tend to be Missouri's rural districts. The budget lawmakers passed this spring, which has yet to be signed by Governor Mike Kehoe, keeps funding flat, coming $190 million under what the state's formula for determining aid to public schools called for. and officials are predicting lean years ahead as the state reserves dwindle. The cut to public school funding was a very serious thing for me to want to be able to get involved. Sarah Kilpatrick, a mother of the 5 in North Kansas City and regional organizer with parents from Missouri Public School, told The Independent, "I need to do something so I don't feel helpless. I can go out and talk about this." Supporters of Amendment 5 argue Missouri should move away from taxing income and towards a system that they should make state more competitive, attractive investment, and let residents keep more of what they earn. They have framed the proposal as a way to force a lawmaker to modernize the tax code while giving them flexibility to replace lost revenue. Other states with no income tax have grown at a pace much faster than Missouri, Governor Mike Hill said in a recent radio interview. "We're losing population. They're gaining population. This isn't sustainable." But opponents say measures asks voters to trust lawmakers to replace the state's largest revenue source without guaranteeing that the public schools will be protected if the math does not work. A woman at Pro-Amendment 5 Town Hall in Grandview earlier this month asked if public schools would face additional cuts, saying the worried lawmakers might not prioritize stable education funding if given more control over taxation. Republican State Representative Bishop Davidson of Republic, who sponsored the tax cut amendment, said that he thinks public education would benefit from the revenue being tied to consumption rather than income. States that rely on consumption taxes rather than income tax revenue have more stable budgets and more predictable budgets, he said. Davidson's claim is largely true, with research showing that income tax revenues decline faster in a recession than sales tax, but policy analysts have varying recommendations to fight vitality, advertising states to plan ahead with large revenues or diversity in its tax portfolio by not leaning too heavily on one tax system. Amendment 5 calls for local governments to cut tax rates to keep revenue neutral, since it assumes more goods and services will be subject to both state and local sales tax. It includes a provision barring multiple municipalities from lowering local funding of public schools under these clawbacks, but it doesn't prescribe any protection at the state level. The Missouri Budget Project, a left-leaning public policy think tank opposing Amendment 5, estimates that the change could cut budgets by 18%. It really does feel like a tax break for billionaires and millionaires versus safeguarding funding for public schools, Fleming said. There's a lot of parents who also are worried about their own bottom line or worried about increased gas taxes or whatever it may be. Fleming has an extensive background in organizing work, including the formation of a group called Parents for KC Kids, which advocated for the passage of Kansas City Public Schools bond measure last year. Voters widely approved the $474 million bond, the first capital improvement bond to pass in the city since the 1960s. Around 90% of those involved in Parents for KC Kids have never campaigned before, Fleming said. The group raised just over $11,000 according to Missouri Ethics Commission filing, contributing to a device victory through volunteer efforts and word of mouth. The family who get involved with the campaign kept their advocacy work going, helping lay the foundation for parents from Missouri Public Schools. When the bond passed, it was like a trigger went off in everyone's head that, oh my gosh, we can do anything. We can do important things, said Lee Bridewell, a mom in the district. It's kind of like a bug. We got it, a big bug. And that first one gave us momentum and clarity about our ability to make change. Catherine Evans, a Kansas City mom, nonprofit consultant, was used to helping charitable organizations advocate for themselves, but have yet gotten involved in school matters apart from the Parent-Teacher Association. She joined Bond Fight to help secure better facilities for neighborhood schools, but after the win, she hasn't stopped seeing needs. Once she won the campaign, I became more aware that there are a lot of threats, she told The Independent. We just want a lot of money for our schools so that we can have nicer buildings and facilities, but there are plenty of threats to public education fundamentally. Across the state, parents in Francis Howell School District in St. Charles County took on a similar battle this year. In April, the county voted on a proposed property tax freeze, which would have stalled local revenue the public schools rely on, with 59% of voters rejecting the measure. The proposal was part of a bill passed by the state lawmakers last year to incentive sports to stay in Missouri. Jamie Martin, who is the president of a group called Francis Howell Forward, partnered with Fleming to educate her neighbors on why frozen property tax could harm local schools. Because of the property tax fight, I had to learn a lot about taxes and how they're divided up and how they work and how they fund schools, Martin told the Independent. So when I saw Amendment 5 come on the horizon, I was like, oh, this is going to have major impact for public schools. And the public schools are something I care a lot about. Early this month, the Martin had led a training for parents in St. Charles to learn about Amendment 5. Her profession as an educator researcher has put her at the front of countless training sessions, but the energy in the room stood out. These parents are ready not just to hear information and to complain, but these parents are ready to act, she said. Over the last few weeks, volunteers with parents from Missouri public schools have held regional meetings in community centers, homes, and restaurants. They ask attendees to spread information in a way that defines their schedule, whether it's to be local media, plays the dates on formal campaigns by flying, making calls.
And we just want to thank you for tuning to the Blind Community Store radio reading service today. Don't forget to tune every week, Monday through Friday, on our Thrift Store's YouTube channel at 10 a.m. for more up-to-date news from the Springfield News-Leader, Springfield Daily Citizen, Springfield Business Journal, and 417 Magazine. And remember, we're live on the Audio Reader Network at www.reader.ku.edu. All broadcasts played over KSMU subcarrier airwaves at 67 kilohertz on 91.1 from 3 to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday.
The time is